Hi, everyone, and welcome to today's episode of Habaita. Today, I am joined by Ofer Lidsky, who is the founder and CEO of Excellent Brain. So nice to have you here, Ofer.
Thank you very much, Shira. It's my pleasure, and thank you for hosting me on your show.
My pleasure. So, first of all, everybody is striving for an excellent brain, and everyone wants to hear that they have an excellent brain. So,
I believe that everyone has an excellent brain.
we just need to, oh my gosh. And I am working so hard on training my brain. So I would love to understand a little bit more about how you train your brain with Excellent Brain.
Sure, no problem. So, Excellent Brain is a company I founded in 2015 with a very clear vision to make a difference in the domain of ADHD, which is now a world pandemic in most of the Western countries. And what we did is we developed a neurofeedback platform that is the most accessible, affordable, and usable in the world today. And as I said, we are focused on ADHD, and neurofeedback is one of the best methods to improve ADHD symptoms.
Yeah, absolutely. So basically I understand just from looking at your website just a little bit, it looks like it's actually quite fun. Can you explain how it actually works?
Sure. So neurofeedback has been around for many years. Actually, the beginning of it is in the late 70s, early 80s. So it's been for many, many years, many decades. But it was a very costly method and really not accessible. Most of the systems of neurofeedback in the world are using wet sensors and very expensive medical devices. Okay. And our innovation is to really make it accessible by using a very simple device to do the training. Now, neurofeedback is a training method that relies on giving positive feedback to the trainee. So it's reinforcing the right thing that you should do. So in terms of attention, the trainee sits in front of the computer. He puts the sensor on his forehead. There are electrodes that reads the brainwaves, transmits them to the computer, and then you play like mini games that are based on your attention levels. So for example, you have a car on the screen, and when you focus using your brain power, not the keyboard or the mouse, the car starts to drive. And once you are distracted by something, either internal or external, the car will stop and you realize that you're out of the zone, you're out of focus, and you bring yourself back there. Now, you do the training twice a week for 20 minutes for 30 sessions. So it takes about 15 weeks to complete a training program. And this seems to be one of the most effective ways to improve three main aspects of ADHD. One is the attention span, being on a single thread of thought for longer than before. And then it translates for reading books, solving problems, and so on, and reducing hyperactivity and impulsivity.
Okay. So also ADHD. Okay.
Exactly.
Wow, that's unbelievable. So this is something that you can also do from your own home as well, right? You offer this for the home and also in specific, clinics as well, correct?
Exactly. So really our biggest innovation is that we are making it accessible to places that couldn't really reach that before. So first of all, the clinicians. So until today, neurofeedback was only in specialized clinics for neurofeedback, which are very expensive. And now we open the market that any psychologist or a practitioner or a clinician can add this to his toolbox and offer neurofeedback training for ADHD. And also we enabled it to do it at home, which is really a breakthrough. And also in schools. In Israel, we are a registered program by the Israeli Ministry of Education since 2016. So we are in many schools in Israel.
That's unbelievable. I mean, the school system really. And so what are the benefits that the school, students are seeing right now in Israel?
So schools that take our program actually operate the program in their premises. So they take usually the computer room or any room that they designate for it. And they have an authorized trainer that does the training to the pupils, to the students, and we can see very big changes in their lives. So students that do this program, you can immediately see how they improve their grades and their listening and their possibility of sitting in class for 45 minutes and listen to the teacher. And come to think of it, attention is something that has to do with anything in your life. So where you're focused is where life is happening. So this also affects even your communication with people and your friends and your family and many other aspects except the grades at school.
I was actually thinking, because as I mentioned, I'm doing a lot of neuroplasticity work on myself, and I'm like learning a lot about it because I'm very fascinated by it. And I'm really working on kind of rewiring these negative thoughts that I have and negative messages that I'm giving to myself. And it's like you're literally battling your nature, right? Because for so many years, 49 years, I've been telling myself these messages, and now I have to be aware of them, and that's
Yeah.
really hard to like be aware, like they're just naturally happening, and you
Mhm.
have to like stop and be aware, and then you have to change that thought. So is that kind of a similar concept here where it's more, I understand it's more for ADD and ADHD when it comes to distraction, but can it also help train positive and negative thinking?
Well, what you're talking about, I think, comes mainly from the domain of CBT, cognitive behavioral
Okay.
therapy, which is a different method that has to do
Okay.
with the different emotional problems. Here, it's actually regulating the brainwaves. So
Cool.
scientists have found out in a very clear way, in a scientifically based way, that there is a difference in the brainwaves between someone who does not have ADHD to someone who has ADHD. And
Wow.
for example, we can see a difference in the forehead, in the brainwaves that comes from the forehead, that usually people with ADHD, they are missing a little bit of the beta waves, which is a high frequency that relates to cognitive performance. So the training
Mhm.
itself trains the brain to bring that frequency and stay there longer. And then the results is behavioral, that you can really focus for longer. We can see kids that could read one page in a book and suddenly they can read 10 or 20 pages in a book,
That's
which is
crazy.
really bigger
Huge.
performance than before in a very large scale.
That's huge. Okay, so if somebody was not sure if they had ADD, can they actually put on your sensor and it would let them know that, it would confirm the diagnosis, or am I totally off here?
Well, not at the current stage. We are not a diagnosis system. We are a training system. So usually we recommend people that were already diagnosed with ADHD to come and do the training. But let's, for example, say that if you take someone who is normal and he
Yeah.
doesn't really know and he trains, so mostly his performance will only a little bit be better, because he's already on the normal side probably. But someone who has ADHD and has big problems with his attention will see massive changes in his abilities. So this is why we
Okay.
usually recommend it for people who were diagnosed with
I know,
ADHD
correct.
or highly suspect that they have ADHD.
Yeah, well, I can tell you so many of my friends as adults are sharing with me that they're just realizing now that they have ADD or ADHD. And, I think this could be so useful for obviously rewiring, a child's brain is unbelievable, but also, and you could stop it from, growing into adulthood that way. But
For
for
sure.
adults as well, that are kind of stuck in their ways and stuck in this, loop, and they don't realize why. Now they're getting diagnosed, and and a lot of them are being put on medication. So is this something that, I know that you're obviously not prescribing the medication. This is post-diagnosis, but do you find that adults and children that do this can actually wean off the medication, or is it something that they use in conjunction?
So both. I mean, first of all, we are not with the claim that you can drop the drugs. We are not
Sure. For
psychiatrists. You
sure. For
always
sure.
have to consult with your
Yeah.
doctor. But we can see a certain percentage of the trainees that they improve so much that their doctor decides to change the prescription or maybe even take them off medication. So it
Wow.
really depends on the trainee itself, but you can get to really good places if you do the training and you do it like you should, with the format of twice a week, and you bring your best into every training. You can really get great results. Now, you were talking about something very interesting, because now we are in an era that a lot of people get late diagnosed because the awareness of ADHD is much higher.
So
And it happens that their kids at school, they get diagnosed, and then the parent get diagnosed, and they
yes,
find
I've
out
seen that. Yes.
at the age of 40 or 50 that they have
Right.
ADHD all their lives, but they didn't know that. And it's thanks to
Right.
their kids they get
Yes.
to that point.
It's unbelievable. I see that happening all the time. And they're like, wait a second, this is what I felt like in school, seeing, reflecting in their children now. So they're getting diagnosed, but it's so great to see that there is, something that they could do. So talk to me a little bit about the sensors, because you said that mostly, this this practice, has existed, but you've created these sensors that you can wear at home. So how is that different than what's in the, specific clinics right now versus what you guys have created?
So actually, the entire story started about 15 years ago when I found out a few companies in the world that manufacture home devices. And this was amazing and fascinating for me as a researcher to connect your brain to the computer. It's an area called brain-computer interface. And so I bought these sensors and started playing with them. And then I found out there is something called neurofeedback, and I went to study that as well. And then I connected the dots. So we are using sensors from other manufacturers. We support a few different sensors, and this makes it very accessible. And we developed the software platform that makes the training program of the neurofeedback. And this combination has become one of the best solutions out there currently in the world for neurofeedback for ADHD.
Wow, that's unbelievable. So basically now, did you have to do a lot of different testing with the different sensors? Like, what was the evolution of this product?
Yeah, first of all, in the first few years, we did a lot of testing, and we also found out that the sensors themselves were tested to see how accurate they are, and are extremely accurate for a home device, which is pretty cheap and affordable in terms of ADHD. And this is why we are focused also on ADHD, because these sensors fit this area of neurofeedback very, very well. Neurofeedback itself, it's a very large domain where you can treat a lot of other things. But we put as a designation, as a goal, to be the best in ADHD in one thing, and really to make it the most accessible. And we've been doing it for over 11 years, and currently we are selling in over 15 countries in the world, and the platform is in many different languages. And now we are in the scale up of this solution worldwide.
That's amazing. So the actual software itself, the neurofeedback software, is that something that you leveraged that was already existing, or did you guys also invest in, expanding it a little bit?
Yeah, we developed the entire software. It's our own development of Excellent Brain.
Okay.
And we also have a few patents in the field. So we developed the most accessible software for neurofeedback that makes it really easy to use in almost any place. And we mainly focus on different clinicians at the current stage, but very soon we are going to introduce our home kit in a much larger scale as well.
Amazing. Okay, so that's pretty incredible, because you guys basically are a hardware and a software company, right? Because you developed the hardware, which are the sensors.
We didn't develop the hardware. We're using hardware from two manufacturers,
right?
but we developed the entire software, and that's the main thing, because the hardware is a tool. It's a sensor with electrodes that reads the brainwaves, transmit it to the computers, and then the magic comes into place. You have to analyze the brainwaves and create the program itself and create all the games. We are the platform with the biggest selections of neurofeedback games in the world. A lot of 3D games and 2D games, and for different ages. And we really, I think, in the forefront of that area.
That's incredible. So basically it's based on age, which I think is so important, obviously, because a 5-year-old or an 8-year-old, can't really do what a 15-year-old is able to do. And are you seeing, though, that the children that start at age 8, 9, a little bit earlier, don't need it at age 15, or they continue to use it?
Well, first of all, the solution fits age 7 and up, 7 or 8 and up.
Yeah.
So if it's 5, it's a little bit too early. From what we see and the data that we have, and also there has been a lot of research around it in the world, neurofeedback stays for a long time, usually a few years. But then let's say it depends on the trainee itself. So I can give an example. If you do the training program and you go to the Technion to study math, so I can tell you for sure that it will stay and even get better because you really use your brain.
Sure.
But if you do the training program and you sit in front of the TV for 3 years as a couch potato, you will have a degradation in the ability, and maybe you will have to do it again in a few years.
Any muscle, right? If you're not using the muscle, you're going to lose it. Use it or lose it, right? So you have
use it or lose it. That's a very known sentence in brain science.
Yeah, for sure. And it's something that I personally always try to work on, and with my, my parents as well, to, as they're aging, to always have something that they're focusing on, stimulating. My mom is amazing at mahjong, which I think is like the best game. It's so hard to learn, and it definitely uses like that's a great example of using your brain cells and
Yeah.
constantly having to think. But yeah, so basically what you're saying is that some children, if they're not really using their brain, might need a little bit of a refresher as they grow older, and this is always available to them and always age appropriate.
Yeah, for sure.
So the business model then, because are you selling it right now at home to direct consumers, or you're mostly selling it to clinics?
We mostly sell to clinics, but in Israel, we do sell the home kit, and now we are starting to introduce it to more markets in the world.
Okay, amazing. So if anyone listening here has a child with ADHD or ADD, or you yourself have ADD or ADHD, this would be incredible that you can purchase. And I'm assuming you ship it worldwide
Yeah.
and they can come on and start using. And you mentioned earlier that you see the results kind of, very quickly. What would you recommend in terms of, you said twice a week, how many hours a week do they need to focus on this and
They
bring their
have to do twice a week, 20 minutes. That's it. I
That's
mean,
it.
it's very
That's
simple and very short.
great.
And
Okay.
and you see the beginning of improvements within 10 sessions. So
Oh, that's unbelievable. Okay. I feel like you need to be partnering with like psychiatrists and psychologists,
exactly.
really get this out there because that is unbelievable. And the amount of kids and adults that can really benefit from this is unbelievable that you can purchase this at home. And so then is there like a website that they go to for the software that they access and they pay like
They purchase the entire package from our website, and
okay.
it includes
Okay.
everything. It includes the
It
sensor, the
includes like
software, everything.
where they log in then and the software is online. Is that how it works?
They install it on the computer. Currently, we support Windows 10 and
Ah,
11, and also we
okay.
support Android. So you can also have a tablet, Android
Ah,
tablet, and use it with a tablet.
that's awesome. Okay, but right now you do not support iPhone or
Not yet, working on it.
we are an Apple family. So, okay, I'm sure that's coming. I'm sure that's coming soon. So that is incredible. So what countries right now are using your amazing technology?
Well, many countries in Europe, South America, we are now starting to penetrate the US, over 15 countries in the world.
That is incredible. Okay, I love it. I love meeting founders that have come up with such a brilliant idea. And so, what inspired you to come up with this idea? Were you
Well,
struggling
two things.
yourself?
First of all, I was very curious about these sensors and how it works, and really dove into it and found out about neurofeedback. And it all came thanks to my son. He was in special education. He's 28 these days, but he was younger then. I told to myself, I have to study this. How can I help? And I connected the dots, and there came Excellent Brain.
Wow, wow. So he was the first user.
Yeah, one of them for sure. I did a lot of experience on them.
Yeah, that's amazing. So if you can give it to your own child, that means that you are really standing behind it, right? Because it helps your
Yeah,
child.
it's an amazing technology with no side effects because it's a passive sensor. It does not
Mm.
change anything in your brain. You do the changes by the training. It's called a bottom-up training. So, and you can understand that the person cannot hurt his own brain. So on the worst case, it's not working and it's not for you, but
Right,
it
right.
works
There's
on
no harm.
80% of the population. So out of
Wow.
10 people, 8 will enjoy improvements, and it's amazing. It's like a present for life.
It really is. And I think it's so incredible to understand, like for me, just to learn that, the patients with ADD or ADHD are really missing something that could just be trained further. It's not like they're missing it and then they can never get it, right? And so this is the
Exactly.
outcome forever. This is something that if you work on, you can actually improve the way that your brain functions, which is just phenomenal. I love that. And I think it's just so important for everyone to kind of know that they do have the ability to do this. Not that I'm
Exactly.
anti-medication at all. I think in, specific cases, it's very much needed, but to know that
Exactly.
you have the ability to train your brain to make significant lifelong changes is phenomenal. And I know that my brain is going for all the amazing different things that this can do. Besides just ADHD, I know that that's your focus and that's your vision. And I think
So
it's
you
amazing.
talked about your parents, and we now introduced lately training for the third age. So
Yeah.
we compete with Mahjong and Sudoku with something that is a bit more effective because it's
Okay.
measurable. You do it twice a week, and reports. And when someone plays mahjong, it doesn't really have reports, or he doesn't really know how much he invested in
Yeah,
that. So it
there's
makes
no
it
due
much more
diligence.
effective. And we're also going to approach this market very soon.
So tell me a little bit about that, because that's incredible. And I think, especially with here in Israel with the war, when they're very isolated, and obviously COVID was a huge issue that they're still
Yeah.
recovering from, the isolation and what it did to their, mental health. So I would love to just understand, how does that work? Is it the same kind of training with ADHD, or is it different?
Yeah, it's almost the same with a little bit different of the training protocol, but you train twice a week for 30 minutes, not 20, and actually this makes your brain work. It's because you have to focus, and you have to really bring your brain to a place with high frequency and high cognitive level, and when you repeat that, you can see the improvements also in the third age.
Is it improvements in memory? What is it? What does it exactly improve?
It retains your cognitive ability, or let's say it slows down a little bit the degradation that begins at those ages. And I have to
Wow.
say, it is not a solution for dementia or Alzheimer, which are
No,
very hard conditions, but
right.
it's a great solution to train your brain to retain your cognitive abilities in those ages.
That's amazing. I'm definitely buying this for my parents. So when we'll talk, that's incredible. I love that. And I think that that's also just an area that not many solutions are available for that age group.
Yeah.
So I think that that's such an important age group to focus on. And I know with me already, like I'm only turning 50. I'm getting older, but I definitely already can start seeing, the changes in my brain as I'm aging. And I think I don't know, tell me if I'm wrong, but maybe even at our age to start, once or twice a week to doing this, it can only help.
Yeah, it can only help.
Yeah, agreed. Okay, Ofer, wow, this is so amazing. I am so excited to have you on my podcast and to share this with the rest of the world. I think it's going to help so many people. So I will
Right.
post your information with your podcast. Ofer, thank you so much for joining Habaita. It was such a pleasure.
Thank you for having me, Shira. Have a great day and safe day.
Amen.